Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and our review of the USMNT's third consecutive Gold Cup victory, the 2-1 win over Haiti in Dallas. That's right, the US got it done with goals from Malik Tillman and Patrick Agyemang and conceded its first goal of the tournament in rather unfortunate circumstances. We'll get to that in this episode. We're going to go into detail on this game, the key performers, and what we've learned from Hot Tillman Summer. Yes, I'm calling it that. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, your friend, my friend, Taylor Rockwell. Hello, Taylor.
Hello, Ryan. We're going to win the World Cup. We're going to be at the World Cup. We'll definitely be at the World Cup, at least that. But after 3 games, we will definitely still be at the World Cup.
That is accurate statements all round. Love it.
We're doing it.
We've kicked off in the right way. Also joining us to discuss this game and much more, we've got Mr. Graham Ruthven. Hello, Graham.
Hello, Ryan. How are you? Have you made it off your castaway island? Yeah, I can't tell because there's still images back.
I'm still castaway. I'm still here with my volleyball. Imagining escaping.
Well said.
That's it. Yep. Joe Lowery. Hello, Joe.
Hey, guys, I think with Patrick Agyemang scoring in this game, this is really going to be the critical juncture of whether we can, as a foursome, learn to pronounce his last name properly. If we can't do it today, it's just never going to happen.
Did I do it wrong in the intro? I'm sorry if I did.
You're over one. We'll get there.
Okay. Patrick Agyemang, right?
Nope. Still Agyemang.
Big Pat.
Big Pat. Number 33.
Big Pat. That works too.
Patrick Agyemang. Yeah, I think
nailed it.
I mean, it could have been in this game, Graham. We'll get to that in a bit. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show, by the way, for our bonus content. We've got bonus episodes, bonus videos, and access to our Discord server where we're talking about Big Pat and much more. Join us in there. It's the best way to support us. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. And if you'd like to see 3/4 of the gang and their video, you can do so on YouTube. Not I. I'm still stranded on a desert island somewhere, but go check out our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, smash things. Thank you very much. All right, let's get to the USMNT action, shall we? Hey, Taylor. USMNT are perfect in Group D play. How about that? Just 1 goal conceded, as established earlier in this episode. The 7th time the US have gone 3-0 in the groups, and of course have clinched a quarter-final place against Costa Rica on Sunday. So to draw back and look at this in general, for what is ostensibly a B-team group, couldn't have gone much better for the groups here?
Yeah, I mean, the only way it could have is if Matt Freese doesn't pass the ball straight to Haiti for the goal, because then you haven't conceded a goal in the entire group stage, and it becomes an even more or equaling of history for the U.S. performing in a Gold Cup group stage. I mean, they've done the bare minimum, what we expected them to do. Now the task gets tougher. I was about to say the tough gets tasker because I've been gone for a week. The Costa Rica, I think, in the knockout round will be a much more difficult animal, both in terms of defensive solidity and in terms of attacking threat, even if they have a key player missing. But for the U.S., they come out of the group stage, I think, at the very least having gained chemistry and at least a little bit of confidence that they're able to find a winner in this game, that they're able to score goals throughout, that they are able to keep the ball, have possession, defend well, step and win, find some passes. Still work to be done for sure, but solid enough so far.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a softball of a group for the US, even by the Gold Cup's standards. I think the US have had 3 relatively easy games so far. But I actually think that was needed after the 2 friendlies, where the US needed to cleanse the palate and kind of get moving forward. And in some way, they needed some confidence, the sense, the feel, the adrenaline of winning again as well. I thought was important, but in a broader sense, yes, absolutely. It's only past this point that where we can really judge this team in any meaningful sense, and I am very much in the mood for some knockout football at this stage.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, Graham. It is an interesting thing that Saudi Arabia, at this point, seem like they are likely to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. It is an expanded World Cup. I think historically they would not. But I'm not sure how often the U.S. comes up against teams in the group stage of the Gold Cup that will be at the World Cup or are likely to be there. So in that way, it's a slightly stronger group, but at the same time, I hear your point that it's still CONCACAF opposition that we should be beating or should be able to handle.
I just think that Saudi Arabia team were a bad team.
Well, there is
one that's come to the Gold Cup. Like, they're missing their best players. They're at the Club World Cup, and as you say, Taylor, like, if the World Cup wasn't 160 teams as it is for next year, they wouldn't have qualified. They have missed out of qualifying for the next tournament.
Is it going to be an arms race between the Club World Cup and the World Cup as to which one can have more teams in it? Are we just going to keep going up and up and up until eventually it's every country and we have to colonize Mars?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, right,
I think
cool.
that's If Sterling Albion get invited, I'm on board. I'm cool with it.
You guys didn't hear the Club World Cup's motto of 2048 teams by the year 2048? I heard that one. That's a classic.
I think we do have to keep to earth, though, because the guy who wanted to colonise Mars, he's not really involved in stuff anymore, is my understanding. Joe, what was your thoughts on this game, the Haiti victory? Is it just is it a simple case of checking a box here, job done, or any more learnings?
I think there were a few more learnings. That is the main case here. The main case is the U.S. got out of the group stage, and as Graham kind of talked about, now we get into the knockouts. Costa Rica on Sunday. These are going to be games where you can learn a little bit more about the players that we're trying to learn about. Because I want to go back again, just as a scene stage setting conversation here. This really isn't about the U.S. winning games this summer. That doesn't really matter a whole lot. This is much more about, can the players that we're thinking can add talent to the World Cup roster next summer actually do that? Like, can they be good enough to play themselves into a roster and actually impact the U.S. when they're on the field in games that really do matter next summer? Not to totally write off the Gold Cup as a valuable tournament. It is. It has value. But without the first choice players here, right, we are limited in what we can actually glean from a tournament like this. So as far as other takeaways, I mean, I think there's more goalkeeping discussion after that turnover from Matt Freese. I think there is more discussion about what the best midfield pairing for this team looks like and how that sort of affects the pecking order when the first choice group is together. I think there's an interesting Malik Tillman discussion to be had in this game where I can see, and I've gone back and forth on Malik Tillman this summer and also always, although I've mostly been out rather than in. I think it was easy to see in this game why Pochettino likes Malik Tillman, like why he has quickly become one of, if not the favorite player of Mauricio Pochettino in this group with how he was getting on the ball and playing passes forward. It was also easy to see why he has not been a first-choice player for the U.S. men's national team at some moments in this game. So I think there are lots of individual takeaways, or at least things that we learned about this group of players. But really, my TLDR is, yeah, let's bring on Sunday already.
Joe, do you prefer Joe Nothing Matters Lowery or Joe My Opinion is Unchanged Lowery?
Maybe more my opinion's unchanged. It makes me feel like I was really staunch in my opinions in the first place. I mean, that's just the reality from these games, man. Like, there's really only so much that we can take away. I think it's far easier to judge players who have played their way out of a meaningful role with the World Cup rather than playing their way in. There are, I think, maybe even a couple of different left backs that probably already fit that description so far from this tournament with the U.S. John Tolkin gets the start for Max Arfsten in this game, and John Tolkin needed a really good game. He did not have a really good game. He gets the assist for the Agyemang goal, but man, John Tolkin was rough in this game.
Joe, which of the times he dribbled out of bounds did you enjoy the least? Because it happened about 5 times in this game.
My notes, Taylor, and my apology. Well, yeah, not a great game for Tolkin. I have 25th minute, corner kick over everybody. 26th minute, over hit ball. 28th minute, miscontrols, and then I just type OOB for out of bounds. Miscontrols, OOB. 37th minute, miscontrols, OOB. Yeah, not great. Not great for J. Maya in this game.
I saw Adam Snavely on Blue Sky saying that he was failing to account for the curvature of the Earth, and so that was his issue.
I mean, this is like, honestly, it was a little ridiculous of all the people that were clamoring to see John Tolkin over Max Arfsten, and I was ready. By the way, I want to be clear, I was ready, although I was more ready for what it would mean for Alex Freeman, and it turns out it meant nothing for Alex Freeman, which we can get to for his positioning later on in this episode. But like, John Tolkin is not a transformative player. I think John Tolkin is a better player than Max Arfsten, but I can understand why Pochettino in games against deeper defensive teams, although Haiti were not super deep in this game, they were much more willing to cede the U.S. space, which could be why Malik Tillman, I think, had a better performance, whatever there. But all these people wanting to see John Tolkin and wanting to banish Max Arfsten to the shadow realm, like, I don't know, this was maybe the worst game I've seen John Tolkin play, but he is not above this kind of performance, and the U.S. is still searching for a Jedi deputy.
Joe, Tolkin I found to be so frustrating that he pushed me to a new age bracket, because after the 37th one, my note is Tolkin dribbles out of bounds again, get a haircut. That's what I have to say.
Wow.
I think it's time. I think it's time to change it up, John.
Wow.
Get off my lawn from Taylor.
Wow. Shave those sideburns. Wow, I like it.
Is it a Swayze thing? What is he? It's like feathered and poofed, but also slicked back. I don't know what he's going for.
Is the point, like, are you talking about the mechanics of his body as a structure, Taylor? Like, he's too top heavy, and so he's like leaning out
Graham
of touch.
Graham understands physics. Thanks, Graham.
It's not just a boomer point of view. There's a mechanical point in there.
I think he's giving you 2 things. Yeah.
All right, Graham, what do we make of sort of the flow of this game? As sort of established, it didn't seem like Haiti came to go at it in this one. It's fair enough. What do we make of sort of the flow from 0 to 90 here?
Yeah, I thought it was what you say there, Ryan, about Haiti not going at it so much. I think that was true of the second half, where they were certainly a lot more passive. I actually thought it was a really entertaining first half, largely because Haiti had some real intent from early on. They didn't bunker for the full 45 minutes, and that's not to say that they were going full court press high up the pitch, but they did put the US under pressure at moments. Their forwards were quick to close down when it went central. They were looking to pinch the ball. They were looking to hit on the break or in quick transition. And the way that Haiti were set up, they made it difficult for the US to play through the middle. I thought Luca de la Torre in particular struggled to get into this game. He had 25 touches in the first half, which isn't what you want for a player of his profile. And I think back to that Turkey game when I was really impressed with Luca de la Torre, and it was his kind of short possession things and just keeping the US ticking over that made me think he had a real role in this team going forward. And right now I'm not so sure about that. And I think Sebastian Berhalter coming out of this lineup on a yellow card along with Diego Luna, who was also on a booking, suggests that he might well come back into that midfield with Tyler Adams for the Costa Rica game. But the bet that Haiti were making in that setup was that they wouldn't be harmed that much by allowing the US to funnel the ball out to the wide areas, where once again the US lacked real verticality because of the players in this pool. But one thing I thought the US were doing a lot better than certainly that Saudi Arabia game, and look, this is largely because Haiti were willing to give up a little bit more space in central areas, but the US were having some joy with punching passes into the attack and into the midfield from the back line. There was one in the 8th minute when I think it's Alex Freeman plays it into Malik Tillman, who had dropped into space. Then another one in the 27th minute, again involving Freeman and Tillman, and it was the same sequence. There was another one in the 43rd minute from Chris Richards into Agyemang, who couldn't really hold it up in that moment. So I liked that the US took more risks in that way than they did against Saudi Arabia. They were able to activate Malik Tillman in this game a little bit more. I thought he was the best player on the pitch for this game. Second half, game state changed a little bit. Haiti were more passive. They were willing to stand off the US. From half-time until 65 minutes, the US had something like 82% possession, which that kind of tells you how the game state changed. But there was some, unlike the Saudi Arabia game, there was still some space in behind the Haiti backline. It wasn't like they were sitting in a super low block. And after the game, John Tolkin said that he and Patrick Agyemang had spoken in a water break or a break in the game or whatever. And Tolkin or Agyemang had asked for that ball from Tolkin over the top that we saw for the winning goal. And there was also a chance for Malik Tillman as well, where he takes it down. There's a disallowed goal, which again comes from a run in behind. So it became a repeatable thing for the US to target. And so in that sense, look, Saudi Arabia might be a better team than Haiti, but I came out of that second half more positive about the way the US were able to turn the screw.
Very good. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dig into more some of the individual performances and look ahead in this Gold Cup. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our review of the USMNT's victory over Haiti at a packed and fervorous AT&T Stadium.
Why, CONCACAF? Why?
The next one's in another NFL stadium. Yep. So that's another more good things coming up.
21,000 for this game was actually a lot more than I expected, considering the Austin game was like, 11 or 12,000? But the wisdom of holding it in the biggest building in the universe. I just don't understand why CONCACAF keeps doing this.
Also, of those 21,000, it felt at least half were Haitian as well, which was, good for them.
Yeah, Graham. Or sorry, Ryan. Yeah, you could hear that when I think like the score, like when they had equalized, and then the score in the Saudi game was going the way they needed to. You could hear a sudden kind of pick up in the sound and the energy of that stadium, and that was another moment of like, oh, U.S. are playing away from home once again at home. Awesome.
Yay. Good stuff. All right, Joe, can we come back to Malik Tillman for a minute? When we look back on this Gold Cup campaign, do you suspect he might be one of the success stories that we talk back on in hindsight?
Yeah, a lot of it depends on what's coming up from Malik Tillman. I really do think that. I think he's shown flashes throughout this tournament so far, and showed a lot of flashes in this game of some really, really nice stuff. But I do want to underscore what Graham said in the last segment about how much more space Haiti ceded to the U.S., even in the second half, right? When they dropped their lines a little bit, there's a slight tweak to their defensive structure as well. And at times it looks, or more often it looked more like a 4-5-1 than it did a 4-4-2 for stretches of the second half. But Haiti are a bit more compact. even then, they are nowhere near as compact as Saudi Arabia were in that game in the second of the group stage. So Malik Tillman, and the same went for Brendan Aaronson and even De La Torre with not as many touches in this game. But all three of those players were finding space off the ball. And Tillman did it more than anybody. And all of a sudden, Richards and Freeman in particular, Graham, you highlighted those players well, had lots of opportunities to break lines into Malik Tillman. And Tillman did quite well with a lot of those balls that came into him between the lines where he could receive on the half turn and go and drive forward. He's got a really nice one in the 58th minute where he gets on the half turn to receive between the lines, carries it forward, plays a through ball to Brendan Aaronson in the 48th minute, which is sort of a similar sequence of him picking up the ball in that space. There was a lot to like about Tillman. The thing is, I am hesitant to draw too much from him in this game because of just how big the spaces were. But at the same time, you can only play who's in front of you. And so far for Malik Tillman, I thought he was basically invisible against Saudi Arabia. I thought he was largely invisible on the ball against Turkey, and he was influential against Trinidad and Tobago and Haiti. Like those are not games that are going to make me think, wow, we're going to look back and say that Malik Tillman is absolutely going to be a huge part of this team moving forward. I know that's not exactly what you asked, Ryan, but really for a lot of the guys who've shown some positive moments, I'm still very much in wait-and-see mode. Because it's not like Malik Tillman totally dominated this game. Yes, I think he was the best U.S. player on the field. There was also a moment, though, in the 40th minute where he tracks back and does really well to win the ball just outside the box, the U.S. box, and then tries to dribble like three dudes to get out of that space and loses the ball like a second after he wins it. There's a few too many of those moments where he's underhitting a pass or he's just too lackadaisical on the ball, in moments where you can't afford to, and against better teams, you are far more likely to be punished. So even in a good game for Tillman, probably the best individual U.S. performer on the field, he still has his moments of, okay, this guy is just not quite there yet. And the reality is it's impossible to be there or for me to think that you're there after a game against Haiti.
Yep. Agree almost entirely with everything Joe said. I think he laid it out really well. The only thing I would add, and the only positive I would add to that, is that I think as the game went on, there was more involvement from Tillman on the attacking side, and I felt like he started to maybe recognize, we see this from time to time with individual performances, he started to recognize, oh, I probably have to do something. Other players maybe aren't as capable. And so at first, or for large stretches of this game, it was sort of receive from the center backs in space, turn, or play on the half turn, try to find attackers out wide, try to find something through the middle, and that was working okay, but it wasn't creating a ton, and he wasn't getting then individually more involved in the attack. Obviously, he scores the opener, so that's pretty involved. But then as the game goes on, and especially in the final 20, 30 minutes, I feel like he's consistently in and around the box. He's buzzing around. He's getting touches. He's getting on the end of passes. And it felt like he kind of grew into the game as a more influential figure, almost as though he recognized, oh, I need to be influential. I guess I better start trying some stuff. And so he has the disallowed goal for handball, which he knew was coming back, even if that felt so harsh in the moment, because it didn't feel like the clearest of handballs, but so be it. He has the other one where he's played in. He does a really great job to control, and then kind of dinks the ball just wide of the post. And that is a moment, another Tillman moment of you really want to see him at least put that on frame. He doesn't. Oh, well. But he's still at least creating uncertainty in the back line. And so my hope would be that we then see that continue to elevate, continue to see him be involved in the attack against a Costa Rica team that I think will be much harder to break down.
Yeah, totally agree. I think this is, for Malik Tillman, this is a big next year for him. And I know that's stating the obvious, but we're talking about all this within the USMNT context, which is, there's a ton of ground to be gained for Malik Tillman, right? For a lot of the guys this summer, there are opportunities, and that is absolutely the case for Malik Tillman to break in and become the U.S.'s third starting midfielder at the World Cup, right? I think we all probably imagine that it's going to be Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie if those guys are healthy. It was Yunus Musa or Gio Reyna before, and now it is probably neither of those players. So there is very much a midfield spot up for grabs, waiting for someone to go out there and snag it. And I think Malik Tillman has the inside track to that based off of how Poch has allocated minutes and also based off of performances so far this summer. That's part of this. The other part of this is the club scene for Malik Tillman, and we've already seen links from AC Milan being interested in Malik Tillman. Bayer Leverkusen, according to reporting out of Germany earlier on today, as I've seen it, maybe it was yesterday, depending on where you're living here. Malik Tillman has interest from Bayer Leverkusen, which would be a huge step up for him, for one of the better teams in the Bundesliga. No longer coached by Xabi Alonso, of course. There's going to be a system change there with Ten Hag, all of these things. But that's a potentially really big move, and it seems like a big move is coming from Malik Tillman this summer. I think he understands, Taylor, that not just this game needed to be him turning it on a little bit. I think he knows that this is probably the biggest summer and heading into the biggest year of his professional career. And I'm very curious to see what happens with him, because I do not think he's there yet. I've been pretty clear about that, I think, over time. I think the potential is clear, and I can understand why Poch likes him so much. But if he's going to put it together, it's probably going to be soon. And for the U.S. anyway, it kind of has to be soon.
I like that, Joe, as a framing of who's got the biggest year coming up going into the World Cup of the group we've seen so far at this World Cup, Gold Cup, excuse me. Perhaps Malik Tillman and maybe Diego Luna are the two who might have the biggest year ahead of them. Is there anyone else we can put in that category?
I mean, Luna's an interesting one, and I don't know if Graham or Taylor have any other thoughts on players with big years ahead of them. I think a lot of goalkeepers could fit into that discussion.
Yeah.
Luna's interesting because he is probably the other guy that's really in contention for that third midfield spot. Now we have seen Pochettino use Luna pretty exclusively as like a narrow winger, like where he defends as a winger and then comes inside and plays as one of the dual 10s in possession. So it's a little bit different from how he's used Tillman in this tournament in particular. But Luna comes off the bench in this game and also gets involved in the half spaces and on the half turn and playing in behind. He's got a really nice ball sort of in behind on the left side when he comes on late in this match. So Luna also can deliver some of the same moments that Tillman can. Doesn't have the same physical profile, isn't quite as rangy, but is a little bit more tuned in, I think, in every moment. So that's a real plus for Diego Luna. I think he's another one who's got a ton to gain and is conceivably in that midfield race for that third spot.
Very good. All right. Big Pat Agyemang, Taylor. I think he did the one of the silkiest moves I've ever seen him do with that takedown with the right, finish with the left for the goal. Very nice indeed. How big a tournament is this shaping up to be for Agyemang?
I think big for him as he continues to like increase his stock and be involved in the conversation for potential number 9s. My lack of enthusiasm and how much I just tempered that shows you where I am on him. That I think he is still. I spent a good minute, I think, during this game trying to figure out the best way to describe him, and I'm not sure I nailed it, because it's not just that he's rough, because he's better than rough at times, but it's just that I think ultimately he's not consistent. Like, there's kind of always a moment when he's going to either take a heavy touch or underhit his touch, or he's going to have a shot when maybe a pass was on, or he's going to take an extra touch before he plays a pass and the window has closed. But then he also has really strong moments where he's able to hold up really well and turn and get a shot off and turn under pressure and turn in the box and try to create and get on the end of balls. And so he's, I think, elevated in my expectation and in my understanding of him as a player, but there is still that lack of kind of uniform consistency that I think makes him an unpredictable player in a way that we don't need within this team. But I don't think there's many other people ahead of him right now. It's probably Pepe, and it's probably Balogun, and then it's probably him. So I think as long as he continues to basically do what is asked of him in training, do what's asked of him in these Gold Cup performances, and score a timely goal along the way, I think it's another big year for him too.
Yeah, I mean, in this game we got another classic Big Pat performance, and we highlighted more of the bad than the good after the last game, and there was still a lot of the bad in this match. The bad touches, the poor hold-up play, poorly executed shooting. It was all there. But the winning goal is excellent centre-forward play.
Yep.
And it is the sort of thing that we want to see more from Agyemang. And each part of that goal are things that he has been criticised for, where he times the run well, he kind of like rides the defensive line to time his run and get in behind. He then, I think his touch, well, we've criticised his sort of big touches, I think it's good recognition from him to know that the keeper, Placide, one of my favourite goalkeepers in the world now, he comes off his line. I think it's good recognition from Agyemang that he knows that Placide is there. He takes the big touch around him and then he finishes into the back of the net. It's good composure. So if we're asking, if one of the criticism of Agyemang is he doesn't put it together, he's a little bit rough in his execution, when a moment comes along, a big moment that wins the game for the US here, when one of those moments comes along and we don't give him credit, then I think that would be a little bit unfair. And I think after this game, it's quite clearly his position at the 9 for this tournament, which I probably would have said after the Saudi game, but there was a question mark coming into this match about whether we might see Damien Downs or Brian White for this game. But it was Agyemang again, and I am reading that as a vote of confidence by Poch. And honestly, Agyemang, along with Diego Luna, potentially Max Aronson seems to be in this category for maybe reasons unknown. He's one of Poch's guys at this point, and in a binary sense, he keeps delivering. I think that's 5 goals in 9 games for the US. Yeah. I read that only 5 players have a better record for the US in their first 9 games, and some of the opposition in those games have not been of the highest caliber. But I don't want to be too simplistic, because obviously all-round game and contribution matters. But if he keeps scoring, it's going to be kind of difficult for him to be, certainly for this tournament, to be dislodged from that place.
There's a new Pirate of the Caribbean in town. That's all I'm saying. With Pat Agyemang, everybody should start their U.S. career playing in a January camp and then playing at a B-Team Gold Cup. I think that's just absolutely the route to success here. One note on Damian Downs. It certainly sounds like is not 100% fit at the moment. So I think there's a pretty clear reason why we didn't see him. Haji Wright got sent home and is dealing with that Achilles injury that we talked about at the end of the last episode. So the options have dwindled to the point where Poch has Brian White or Pat Agyemang to choose from. He goes with Agyemang, which, as Graham said, is not a big surprise. I think it is certainly clear that Pochettino sees something in Agyemang, and that has been true with a few different guys that have gotten real run in this tournament. I do think, to be fair to Agyemang, I thought this was his best game this summer for the U.S. The thing that I'm struggling with, that people will not be surprised to hear, is I don't know exactly how much stock to put into that, or to rephrase, I'm hesitant to put much of any stock into that. At the same time, there were good things that happened in this game, and I hope we see more of them against a better team in Costa Rica, a team with Francisco Calvo ready just to absolutely plow through Pat Agyemang at any possible opportunity. The world's most chaotic center back is on offer for the U.S. and Agyemang next, so I'm looking forward to that.
There we go. Wonderful stuff. Joe, in our show notes, you mentioned we want to give a shout out to Chris Richards. Looking at his stats, lost
Confusing.
5 duels, won 1. I think FOTMob have given him the lowest rating of the team that played, Joe. So what's your thoughts on Richards here?
Yeah, I liked a lot of what Chris Richards did in this game, especially on the ball. Defensively, he had a couple of moments where he gets turned. There's a 34th. Ooh, new number. Let's go. There's a 34th minute moment. Yeah, it's Corey 34th's numerical cousin. He gets turned in the 34th minute of this game. There's a couple of those moments.
Is that the one where Freeman just passes it straight to Haiti and then Richards has to respond? Because I'll let him off the hook a little bit when Freeman's
yes, it
like,
is.
you know what? Have an attack, guys. Let's see what you do with it.
But the thing I appreciated about both Richards and actually Freeman in this game is that Richards was breaking lines a lot and was splitting those passes. I think one of the big stories for the U.S. this summer has been Chris Richards not crumbling in the face of pressure. I actually am struggling for when those other lost duels are in this game, and I guess go ahead, Taylor.
I think a lot of it is aerial. I think he's 0 for 4 in the air, and I think that was the only consistent knock I had in my notes. Is anytime they went direct, Reem wasn't great either. He loses a critical one as well. I think combined they were 1 for 6 in aerial duels, the two center backs, which is troubling. And a lot of the time it is Richards being stuck between tracking his man as the attacker drops deeper and trying to win the aerial at the same time. And I think when he was splitting the difference and when there wasn't sort of an immediate tussle and he had time to adjust to the ball, that was where he seemed to struggle because I think he was caught in two minds at that point. And so that created opportunity for Haiti. It created uncertainty for the U.S. I balanced that against the distribution that you talked about when he is so regularly the one who is able to find Tillman in space, into feet, and is looking for those passes, is also looking for vertical balls over the top, is also looking for big switches. And the other thing I noticed from him is how aggressively he was stepping and tracking when attackers would drop deeper for Haiti to try to create overloads in the middle. There was good tracking by Richards and oftentimes some crunching tackles as well. He has one in particular in the 27th minute where it's like a step tackle on Duckins Nazan. It's a great read. He wins the ball. He wins it cleanly, but then he also gets a little bit of the man just to let him know he's there. And that's kind of exactly what you want from your center back. Stepping, winning the ball cleanly, and then facilitating possession high up the pitch. So I think I actually really enjoyed this performance from Richards, other than I felt like both center backs struggled with vertical balls and went to kind of abandon their mark to go and try to win those.
Yeah, I think one of the stories this summer, and that's helpful context, Taylor, on Richards in this game, one of the stories has been Chris Richards stepping up into a leadership role for the U.S. men's national team, where this was Tyler Adams' first start of the Gold Cup, right? He has that little foot injury before this tournament starts, so we don't see him in the lineup from minute 1 in any of these games before the Haiti match. And with so few other regular U.S. players in the team, and Malik Tillman being one of the other guys, and he's not an especially vocal player, Richards was sort of by default going to end up in more of a vocal leadership role with this team. And having been around the U.S. quite a bit in the past and covering this team on the ground as well, he's a guy that I think is a really good fit for that, where he is a more vocal player naturally. He's a charismatic guy. And I think more important than that, he's a pretty good soccer player. And we've seen Chris Richards not crumble amidst that added responsibility this summer. Granted, against bad teams, right? That's the caveat with all of these is I'm not going to wax poetic about any of these guys after 3 games in the Gold Cup. That's just not going to happen. But I think Chris Richards has stepped up in a lot of ways in his distribution ever since he was with Hoffenheim, right? Like years and years ago now. I think it's been a real strength of his game, and that we get to see it shine in some of these more established possession moments. I really have enjoyed that a lot.
Graham, can we have the goalkeeper conversation? I don't know if we class Matt Freese as one of Poch's guys, TM, but do we think he starts for Costa Rica?
Put that in a
this
t-shirt.
has affected his status here.
I think he will start the next game just because Pochettino has made such a big thing about giving Matt Freese a run of matches. But unfortunately, one of the big takeaways from this game is a negative around the goalkeeping situation, which is just a complete mess. Matt Turner's not playing at club level. He is making mistakes whenever he comes into the national team. Now we've got Matt Freese doing the same. Zach Steffen and Patrick Schulte aren't here because of injury, so it's not even like Poch can have a look at them. So. Yeah, I think this match made clear there was the slim hope that maybe Matt Freese, he has a really strong tournament. He gets a move to Europe. All of a sudden, he's playing regular football in a Big Five league, and the World Cup comes around, and all of a sudden, we feel good about Matt Freese as the number one for that tournament. I think this match made clear that whoever starts the World Cup next year, we're not going to feel great about them, and I'm kind of making my peace with that situation after this game. I mean, the mistake for the goal is. Yeah, it's a disaster for Freese, who tries to pass out to Tolkin instead of just getting rid of it. It is some finish, so it was ruthlessly punished. At the same time, I thought Freese's positioning for the shot was a little bit close to his near post as well, so it kind of compounds the mistake. The back pass from Tim Ream was a touch hot, but come on, Matt Freese should still be able to deal with that moment. So yeah, not great, but I do think he's going to have the opportunity to kind of bounce back from it, because I think he will start the game against Costa Rica.
Graham, Stu Holden in the broadcast, I think put like a decent percentage of the blame on Tim Ream and that back pass. Watching it get in slow motion, Ream is like very clearly staring at Matt Freese like, I'm about to pass you the ball. I'm going to pass you the ball now. Here comes the pass. Don't kick it right to Haiti. Oh, you kicked it right to Haiti. I have a hard time putting that fully on Ream. It's a little bit of speed. I think it skips right at the end. You still just got to put that one away. I think, then the argument is, why doesn't Ream just put it out of bounds? But, I guess he doesn't see as much of the pitch in that moment. He has a defender on his back. I guess the idea would be the goalkeeper can at least hit it longer up the pitch so that you don't have as much of a dangerous throw-in. But all the same, not great from anyone involved in that one, except for the goal scorer, Lucicius? Nope, that's not it. But I wrote down the last name, Don Dietzen, and then it was Luisius, I guess is what he goes by. I was confused. But either way, a great goal.
Yeah, I just think the fact that it was a little bit hot from Ream, surely if you're Freese in that moment, you think, that makes it easy for you. You think, right, I'm just clearing this into touch. And I do think it was a touch hot from Ream, but yeah, he should be dealing with that.
And weirdly, in a way, I'm comforted by the fact that this was a mistake with his feet rather than a mistake, like an obvious shot-stopping howler in this moment. Pochettino said all the right things after this game, which is, the most important action is the next one. This is Matt Freese's audition for the U.S. men's national team. And I think up to this point, he hasn't really come out with any letter grade other than an I. It's been incomplete. This is a knock against him. But these things happen, right? These moments happen. And I would be in a much more concerned place this morning if this was something to do with him actually keeping the ball out of the net. And the reality is, on the shot itself, he had no chance to stop that thing. So I want to see more of Matt Freese, but I suppose I was already where you've come around to being, Graham, which is that it just had seemed so unlikely that the goalkeeper's position was going to be a position of strength. And I still think, even if Matt Freese has a fantastic knockout rounds of this tournament, I still think it's going to be up for grabs. And we're going to learn more in September. We're going to learn more literally in every camp between now and the World Cup. I would be surprised if there wasn't some sort of debate about whose job that was. Because if Freese plays well for the rest of this tournament, which is very possible because I think he's a capable goalkeeper, but Matt Turner goes and plays well for his next club and is doing a lot of good stuff come October or whatever it is, maybe September's too soon, there's going to be discussion. So I don't think this job is going to be locked down, even if Matt Freese had a phenomenal Gold Cup without this mistake. I think there are still real questions about who's going to be in that spot at SoFi in next June or July, whenever that is.
Yeah, good stuff. Taylor, you've raised an important point. Are Haiti the team with the coolest sounding handles in world soccer?
Yes.
Luisius, Providence, Jacques, Experience.
Experience is the best. That's
crazy.
the best one.
I love it. And Placide, of course, the goalkeeper.
The
who,
legend.
by the way, I think when your goalkeeper goes up for the handshake at the start, you've already won. You've already won the battle when you send him up for that handshake. Imagine receiving that handshake.
No, I can imagine my hand being crushed and being like, well, I won't be scoring on that.
He's a big boy.
He was indeed. All right, well, let's take one more quick break. When we come back, some of our key takeaways, and we look ahead to that big game against Costa Rica at the weekend. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our USMNT Special, looking at the win over Haiti. Joe, any other players you want to spotlight before we head to our look ahead to Costa Rica?
Yeah, I want to spotlight Alex Freeman, not really for anything he did in this game, but more for what he wasn't doing in this game, which is when I saw the lineup drop and you see the 4 changes, right? So we've already talked about a bunch of these, but you see Seb Berhalter taken out of the midfield for Tyler Adams. Berhalter's on a yellow card. Maybe we'll see him come back into the quarterfinals. Maybe we won't. Not sure. Diego Luna's on a yellow, so we see him drop to the bench. We see Brendan Aaronson in his place. Maybe that is Poch wanting to see Aaronson. Maybe it's just yellow card management. My gut says it's probably the latter there. Yep. We see the change on the right side where we get Quinn Sullivan in for Jack McGlynn, which didn't have a yellow card rationale attached to it. This was Pochettino wanting to see a bit more aggression from that right side, it seems, or maybe just rotating a little bit of his lineup. And then the other change was the left back change, which was Tolkin in for Max Arfsten. And I talked about how I wanted to see that, both because Max Arfsten hasn't been very good in this tournament so far, but also because I wanted to see Tolkin in this team so that we could get Freeman a little higher on the other side, where if you think about the fullbacks as this kind of pendulum, where one goes forward and the other one has to drop back to cover. That's how Pochettino has mostly used his fullbacks since he took over with the U.S., and is still an incredibly popular way to use fullbacks all across the game. We see for the U.S. often one fullback stay deep with the center backs and the other one push high and wide and become the width provider on the opposite side. That deep player had been Alex Freeman all the way through, and we talked about this a bunch. That's not a role he plays with Orlando. He plays much higher, can still tuck inside, but is often in the final third rather than back, closer to the midfield stripe. But Pochettino has exclusively used Alex Freeman so far as a stay-at-home right back. And the thought was, with Tolkin, as a more defensively reserved player, someone who's played a little bit deeper before, who's played as a center mid before, and is not a converted striker like Max Arfsten is. The thought was, if we see Tolkin can defend deeper and can stay deeper in possession. That would then free Alex Freeman, #FreeFreeman, up to the right side to go and attack and to do a lot of the stuff that he does with Orlando. And I thought we were going to see that because we get Tolkin in the lineup, and then we just did not see that at all. We saw Tolkin play the Arfsten role almost to a T. He rotated inside a little bit more in the second half, kind of freelancing there. But it was the same role, and Freeman was in the same role as a result. He had some nice line breakers. He had that blocked pass in the 34th minute. It was not perfect, Alex Freeman, in that deeper role. But I'm still watching and waiting, and waiting to be able to pop my popcorn for the moment where Alex Freeman is used in a way that I think best suits his skill set. Yeah. I thought it was going to be in this game when I saw the lineup, and it just wasn't.
Yeah, we're not really seeing the player that we see for Orlando in MLS, and that is disappointing. And I'm a little bit confused as to why Pochettino in this game didn't feel that he could switch between the two, where you could have Tolkin just for the sake of variety and to disrupt the opposition as well, where in some moments you have Tolkin as the one who's dropped back in the 3, and you have Freeman pushed high, and then you switch. If he is so ready to have in that left side, as the kind of more high and wide side, you can still do that in the game while giving Alex Freeman an opportunity to do for the US what he does for Orlando. So I am a little bit disappointed because he was one of the players that I was looking forward to seeing in this tournament, and it feels like we're not getting a total reflection of what he can do. At the same time, this was an improvement from him on his last game. I felt like he was more locked down in terms of his defensive play, where Haiti tried a couple of balls in behind him 2 or 3 times, and Freeman was able to handle it better than he did against Saudi Arabia when it felt like he was defending a lot of open space. Joe, as you've already covered, his passing as well was in central areas was good in this game. So even in this limited role, I still think we're seeing enough from Alex Freeman to suggest that he can be a valuable player for this team moving forward.
I think the only slightly nuanced frustration I have with Freeman, aside from what you all have talked about with his positioning, is just that with some of his passing, there's a few moments in the first half when he is playing what should be simple passes, usually out wide to Quinn Sullivan, or if it is maybe more central, it's to Malik Tillman. And I think because that was in moments when the Haitian defense was just a little bit more slack, a little bit more standoffish, it felt like his passing, Freeman's passing, corresponded. And that's where it got a little slack. That's where it was maybe under hit or 2 yards too wide or a little bit over hit. And those are the moments when Tillman would then struggle to get to the ball or struggle to get to it in an advantageous spot. And so the ball would pop up, or there would be kind of a contested one that led to a free kick, or it was a pass out of bounds, or it was a pass to Haiti. And so The only kind of little knock I have there for Freeman is just that it felt like he was playing to the speed of the game and not trying to play at a higher speed to help kind of control the tempo a little bit more. It felt like he slowed down when things needed to speed up.
All right, Joe, let's look ahead to Sunday in Minnesota. Costa Rica coming up. Probably easy to say, a more robust opponent coming up here. They've scored 6 goals already in the group stage. Maybe a bit more of a challenge in the US's defensive third. What are you thinking about about this game, about who Poch might select? Do we think we're going to see a couple more changes in this one? How are you feeling about the approach?
I think we will see changes to get the U.S. back to closer to the lineup that we saw in the first group stage game and in the second group stage game. I think we're going to get Diego Luna back into this team for Brendan Aaronson, who I didn't think was bad in this game necessarily. He had his bad moments, but also was pretty bright moving off the ball. I think did a pretty good job of picking up space. I didn't mind Brendan Aaronson in this game.
Joe, can I tell you, he had one moment that I felt like was I kind of get when Joe gets frustrated. It's the 60th minute. It's the U.S. with a really good swarming counter press, and Brendan Aaronson is part of that. They've turned the ball over, I think, in Haiti's 18. Haiti tried to dribble out, and basically it's 3-on-1. They lose the ball, and Aaronson ends up collecting, but he's collecting sort of running in parallel to the 18-yard box and slightly away. And if he turns in that moment and plays it back, there are 3 U.S. players right there with one defender that they can easily attack. And it's one where if you watch it again, as Aaronson starts to dribble away, you can see Tillman just raise his hands up like, where you going? Where you going, man? And then he just drops them when the ball goes
There
all the
were
way
like
back to
3 of those moments with Aaronson where you're like, goals over here, dude.
I appreciate the dribble. I appreciate that you're trying to do something. At the same time, it feels like sometimes he gets a little bit of tunnel vision with that, like, lots of touches dribble that he does. And in that moment, if he turns and just tries to play more creatively instead of more, like, aggressively creative, I can't really find the difference between those two, but there is like running as fast as you can with the ball in a straight line and doing a step over and then passing the ball. And those are both creative. They're just creative in different ways. And I saw him not be creative, and I think in a way that would have more likely unlocked the defense.
Yeah, I was cooler on Aaronson's performance in this game than it seems Joe was. At the same time, his assist for the opening goal is great. And I don't just mean the cross. The cross is excellent, and it's a good guided header back across goal from Tillman. The kind of second phase persistence by Aaronson after the first phase breaks down with a little exchange with Agyemang inside the box.
When he shoots the ball and shouldn't have shot the ball and then it's blocked, that first phase, or then the next first phase where he then helps get it back?
That comes from a pretty bad set by Agyemang, though. I think the ball is slightly behind him. But anyway, that little exchange breaks down inside the box, and Aaronson recovers it and composes himself and plays a great cross to the back post. That's the good side of Aaronson and what he gives you, where there is tenacity to his play. It's just channeling that into a consistent final ball that has evaded him his whole career.
Having Taylor and Graham both work together in harmony to criticize Brendan Aaronson's attacking play is like just the proudest moment of my podcasting career. I feel like this has been what I've been building to. The Thunder won the NBA Finals yesterday. It's been a long project for them over the years. Some really smart front office work on their part. I feel like this is my NBA Finals win right here. At the same time, I thought Aaronson was like actually kind of useful in moments, which maybe that's because I'm coming from a point of not expecting much of that. Either way, I would expect we'll see Diego Luna over Brendan Aaronson. The right side, I think, is an interesting one. Where I'm having fun with Jack McGlynn playing as a right winger. I don't think it's like amazing for Jack McGlynn, and I think Pochettino kind of came around to that, where in the second half of the game against Saudi Arabia, we see McGlynn dropped into midfield rather than playing as that width provider on the right side, and we actually did get about 20 minutes of Alex Freeman playing that high and wide role. McGlynn and Yunus Musa, I think it's funny, have both had kind of parallel experiences for the U.S. men's national team. They come in, they get played on the right wing, both of them score a goal very early on in their experiment as being the right winger, and then both of them fade, as they were destined to do, because they're not great wide attacking options. Instead, they're sort of very different players who are better to use centrally. But at the same time, I don't think Quinn Sullivan is banging down the door for minutes. He brings almost an entirely different skill set than McGlynn, and I think Sullivan's one plus attacking skill set is his crossing ability. Like the tempo and the speed he puts on those balls, even if they weren't all perfect in this game, is a differentiator in this pool. That's just not enough. And I don't know that it's going to be enough against a team like Costa Rica, where the U.S. are going to have a lot of the ball. So I would expect that we'll get McGlynn back into that group, and you're going to reprise from left to right, the Luna, Tillman, McGlynn trio underneath Agyemang. But I'm not 100% sure, and that's because I don't really think that McGlynn is best suited for that role.
Joe,
Yeah.
Sorry, Graham. I wanted to ask Joe, which of the I'll go back to McGlynn with this. Which of the double pivot central midfield options do you feel is most press resistant? Do you feel most comfortable being on the ball, trying to find some passes, but also just not getting caught in possession?
Yeah, probably De La Torre and McGlynn, to be honest.
Okay.
I think that is a super lightweight defensive pairing that pretty much would discourage me from using it. But I think to do what you asked, yeah, it's those two guys.
So how would you feel if we saw, when the U.S. is in possession, it's Freeman, it's Richards, it's Adams who drops into kind of that right half space to become the right center back. It's De La Torre who stays more central as a connective piece. Then it's Freeman getting very forward on the right. It's Arfston getting very forward on the left. You have the kind of three attackers you mentioned now all moving much more centrally with Agyemang ahead of them. How would you feel about that attacking shape?
Yeah, I'm not mad at that at all. And we kind of saw that in the second half against Saudi Arabia, where instead of Adams dropping to become that third center back on the right in the Freeman spot, it was Seb Berhalter. And Berhalter dropped in, and then you had, I believe it was De La Torre and McGlynn for that stretch of time, and you had Freeman pushing high and wide. I think that is not outside of the realm of possibility. Even as an in-game rotation, we did see Adams drop a little bit in the second half to pick up the ball in one or two moments that allowed Freeman to go forward. Yeah, I'm interested in that. I certainly think Adams has his spot locked down with the U.S. whenever he is around to actually take it. I don't know who his partner is going to be in this game against Costa Rica. I don't think Luca De La Torre has blown the doors off of anything in this tournament. I also don't really think that's De La Torre's game. And I don't necessarily blame him. I know Graham, you cited the touch count earlier. Adams had double his touches in this game, which did surprise me a little bit. I think a lot of it was De La Torre getting bypassed in the build-up, where they didn't need to play through him in the same way. They could instead just skip that midfield line and play into Tillman or play into Aaronson or even play into De La Torre when he crept higher up the field. But I don't feel super strongly about who the midfield partner for Adams should be in this game. I love Tyler Adams coming in and it was a little reckless, actually, so maybe I'm being too strong. I did appreciate the energy associated with Tyler Adams coming in and crunching a dude 30 seconds into this game and picking up a yellow card. That was very Tyler Adams coded right there, and it was Tyler Adams indeed. I enjoyed that. I don't really know who his partner should be in this next game.
Yeah, I mean, there's two question marks with this. We could pretty confidently call 9 of the 11 starters for that Costa Rica game.
Do it.
Right. Well, I mean, it's going to be Matt Freese. I don't think Matt Freese, despite the mistake, is going to come out of the lineup. Yep. It's going to be Alex Freeman. It's going to be Chris Richards. It's going to be Tim Ream. One of the question marks is left back. Feels like it could be a toss-up between Tolkin and Arfston. I'm leaning Arfston just because all the evidence suggests, as I said earlier, Arfston is kind of one of Poch's guys. Seems to like him, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if he comes back into the lineup. The other question mark, to your point, Joe, is the partner. Well, I think it'll be two of Adams, De La Torre or Berhalter in central midfield. I'm leaning it'll probably be Adams and then one of the other two. And then it's going to be Jack McGlynn on the right. I think he'll come back into this team. It's going to be Tillman, it's going to be Luna, and it's going to be Agyemang. That's going to be the team on Sunday against Costa Rica.
Do you have a leaning for that other midfield spot, Graham?
I just because Berhalter comes out on that yellow card, and as I've said a couple of times, De La Torre, I've just been underwhelmed by De La Torre. I get what you're saying, Joe, about in this game bypassing him, but you essentially then have a passenger in your midfield. If that's the game plan, would you not be better? Well, I was going to say putting Johnny Cardoso in that central midfield so at least you've got something defensively. But again, he comes into this game, and I thought he was rough, man. He's having a really rough tournament. But conceptually, having someone like Johnny who maybe gives you a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball, because I just think De La Torre is someone you want having those kind of simple possession, tempo setting moments, and I just haven't seen that from him so far. So yeah, I would lean Berhalter.
Graham, did you ever go on vacation when you were a kid and you made friends with other friends who were there, who were from different parts of the world? Okay.
Can't relate.
Never mind. Let's say theoretically you did. And then, 2 weeks after you get back from your vacation, they're not your guys anymore. Do you see where I'm going with this analogy? Do you worry that there are guys who are Poch's guys here who may not be his guys
I love
when
that.
they're not his guys anymore?
Can relate to that with like newspapers I've written for. I seem to be their guy. Podcasts I was on previously, and then all of a sudden I'm not their guy. Yeah, relationships. Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying, Ryan. Those guys are his guys until better guys are available in the next window, and then they will not be his guys anymore.
It's gonna be like Seb Berhalter texting like, "Hey Gaffer, how you doing?" And then it's just the three dots, they go away. The three dots, they go away.
Right.
The three dots, they go away, and then it's like new phone. Who is this again? Like, yeah, it's
in that situation, Poch would be completely justified because Seb Berhalter has broken the cardinal rule of American soccer: never say Gaffer. Just don't. You're not. Just stop. Just stop right there. Reconsider your actions. No, I sincerely hope not, because Seb Berhalter seems like a smart guy.
Yeah.
He would never.
I bet Stu Holden says Gaffer.
I
Okay.
think most
I've made my
guys
position
who
clear.
played in Europe say it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Anyone
let's
who's been
stop
around an
that
Englishman,
ASAP.
it seems like they say
Nah,
it.
we're done.
All right.
It's bad.
All right, Taylor, final question for you. How are you feeling sort of optimism-wise about this journey
Nervous.
to the Gold Cup so far? So, obviously, quarterfinal of Costa Rica coming up. It looks like if the chips fall as they may at the time of recording, it'll be Canada on this side of the bracket in the semis. And
Jesse Marsh is already mad about it. I tell you
Yeah?
that much.
Are you?
Revenge game. Let's make it happen against Canada first. Let's make it happen against Costa Rica. Watching their game against Mexico has me, like, optimistically nervous is the best way I can put it, because I didn't think that they were particularly good at any one thing, aside from Keylor Navas continuing to be Keylor Navas. He stands on his head a few times. But there is a very controversially disallowed goal for Mexico. I think I understand why it's disallowed in the end, but that could have made it 1-0. They could have scored there. Raul Jimenez has a fairly wide open header at the back post that he puts wide. And then there's some other really, really nice shots, really good saves from Keylor Navas. But I don't feel like Mexico were particularly efficient, and I don't think they created all that much. So it's not as though this is a Costa Rica team that just swarmed them and nullified everything. It's a team where I think they will park it. I think there's going to be a lot of kind of defensive play to this one, especially with Ugalde, their number 9, missing. He's going to be suspended. He picks up his second yellow against Mexico. So I don't think that they're going to have a lot of the kind of maybe, or some of the attacking firepower at least, that they would like to see there. So it's going to be a back five. It's probably going to be a 5-4-1 with a lot of defenders behind the ball and then Keylor Navas standing on his head. So I think it basically is going to be a very frustrating opponent who will be defensive but can obviously punish you on the break. They're able to create some good opportunities against Mexico on the break. Obviously can't score, still creating. So for the U.S., you then have to kind of continue to fine-tune what we've seen. It's going to be a team that's better against the ball, so you have to move it faster, you have to try more, you have to be a bit more creative, and you still have to stay solid defensively. If you give up cheap opportunities, this Costa Rica team can and will punish you. So it feels like a good test based on the opposition we've seen from the U.S. so far and the way the U.S. has grown into games. Now we have to see if they can move it to that next level in the knockout round against an opponent who is better. And I think they can. That's why I'm optimistic but also nervous, because it's a better opponent with some very good players therein. It just also requires a better performance from the United States. Probably a better performance than we've seen so far.
Yeah, Taylor, you watched the Costa Rica game. Did anyone catch the Trinidad and Tobago goal in the game that was being played at the same time as the US match by Sealy? Oh wow! Like, this is goal of the tournament. It's goal of the summer so far. Just like whips it into the top corner from like 25 yards out. It's a great goal. Haven't seen it.
Who said the U.S. can't produce high quality soccer players? Dante Sealy. Well done, lad.
I feel so bad. For the goal that was disallowed for Mexico by Santiago Jimenez would have been the goal of the tournament. It's off of a free kick, and it's basically from like maybe 35 yards out. It's played in, and it's sort of headed away. It's sort of gotten to first by the defender, who plays it kind of back across the goal, and Jimenez hits a like overhead kick, flying volley sort of thing, and just crushes it in. But offside is awarded somewhere along the way, so no goal stands. So that would have been the goal of the tournament, but instead we'll give it to Dante Sealy. I'm fine with that.
Okay. And Graham, if we're talking about goal of the summer, Kenan Yildiz might want to have a word with you as well from the Club World Cup. Speaking thereof, hey, if you want to hear more about the Club World Cup, why don't you tune into our Patreon, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. We're discussing that on the feed. I know, I'm such a professional. We're discussing that and much more on the feed this week. And, of course, we'll have some Club World Cup updates on main feed too. But for now, that is our USMNT wrap-up of the Haiti game. Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much indeed for your expertise as always, sir.
Thank you very much, Ryan Bailey. Presuming you are still there and this is not AI functioning. We can't see him, so we're not sure.
You'll never know. Graham Ruthven, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey. Taylor, the Islanders have tied him up on like the spit now, and they're chanting and they're carrying him to the fire. He's in trouble.
My hockey brain was like, the New York Islanders are doing that? That's troubling. It's very troubling.
Yeah. It's all got a bit Wicker Man over here, a bit scared. But Joe Lowry, thank you very much indeed for your expertise here.
Thanks, guys. This is fun.
And thank you very much, listener, for joining us on this one. We'll be back on the feed very shortly. But for now, bye!